Hey guys, Superhorrorbro Mike here, and in today's video we explore the neon-soaked streets of Ghostwire Tokyo as we run down each and every supernatural visitor found within. For this video I will be reading excerpts from the game's own descriptions to define these creepy apparitions, and then elaborating on their place within the game and associated attributes. So sit back, relax, and let's go ghost hunting in Tokyo. One of the most common visitor types you'll encounter throughout this fictional rendition of Tokyo, Japan are the walkers. They look a little like horror legend Slender Man and come in many different varieties. Let's look at each variant in turn. First up we have the Rain Walker. Dressed in a suit and tie and carrying an umbrella which doubles as a shield against incoming attacks, these ghosts were born from the hearts of those pushed to the point of utter exhaustion by their work. And so in death they apply an equally exhaustive approach to robbing the living of their life force. During battle, the Rainwalkers can use telekinetic energy to hurl objects at their prey, staggering them so they can quickly close in for the attack. They can also charge up energy balls to fire off as projectiles. Rugged walkers look very similar to rainwalkers, but are far larger and more dangerous, using their umbrella as a shield which must be destroyed before we can focus our attacks on the enemy itself. They were born from the quiet, underlying rage burning inside those who have spent their lives being mercilessly trampled upon. It is said once their anger is unchained, there is no stopping the murderous rampage that follows. Next, we have a female variant of the walker known as the Rain Slasher. Carrying a crimson umbrella and bonesaw in their hand, these ghouls can kill in seconds thanks to their speedy movement and powerful water-based slash attacks. The Rain Slashers were born from the deep enmity that grows from personal conflicts at the workplace. The creature wields this resentment as a deadly weapon, striking out at the living. Shadow Hunters are another more dangerous form of the standard walker enemy type. They were formerly traffic police, as seen by their uniform and baton, once used to flag down vehicles. Now this stick is used to bludgeon their prey with a vicious barrage of powerful melee-based attacks. They are said to be born from the self-destructiveness of those who have lost sight of what they once wished to protect and have become the very thing they once wished to fight. Therefore, these shadow hunters can be seen as symbolic for corruption within the police force. The final two walker variants are much bigger, more aggressive, and deadlier than any that came before. First up, the Relentless Walker. These have a more bloated appearance than the other walkers and are dressed in more lavish attire, their umbrella adorned in a floral design. They wear a red scarf and carry a large hammer, which they slam into the ground, sending out shockwaves and hurl around during frenzied combo-based attacks. Their strength is formidable, granting these particular visitors the ability to kill in seconds. It is said the Relentless Walkers were born from those with violent mindsets. They now swing blunt weapons on a rampage with reckless abandon. Last but by no means least is the Rage Walker, featuring the creepiest design of all. These flaming ghouls have deformed faces with several gaping mouths. They look far less human than their other walker counterparts. The Rage Walkers have the ability to shoot out fireballs and shockwaves at their victims. As their appearance suggests, these monsters were born from explosive rage, their anger so intense that it causes the very ground beneath them to tremble. Haunted schools and ghostly schoolgirls are a key part of modern Japanese horror, and so, as one might expect, these elements have found their way into the lore of Ghostwire Tokyo. The students of misery are found in abundance throughout this nightmarish rendition of Tokyo, often idly engaging in the activities you'd expect from a teenage girl, whether that's chilling on their phone, studying at a computer, or playing with their friends. They seem to go about their daily lives as if they were still alive and well, though they do lack one key appendage we'd expect to see from a living human: a head. They originate from the anxieties of young female students. Upon noticing the player, these students of misery lash out with an acrobatic volley of attacks, stepping about their prey as if taking part in a dance class. They utilize their athletic skill set to perform high kicks and roundhouses, which can be deadly if not properly blocked. Their male counterparts are dubbed as students of pain. They operate in much the same way as the students of misery, with a range of athletic melee-based attacks, and are also missing their heads. However, they can take and dish out a little more damage than their female classmates. These students of pain were born from the relentlessness of young male students faced with uncertain futures. Now they unleash their frustrations upon anyone unlucky enough to cross their path. The Shrine Dancer was born from the sense of resignation felt by those whose desires go unfulfilled. They are airborne visitors and hang from a rope tied around their neck. The Shrine Dancers wear a long white dress, their heads a ball wrapped in a sheet with a sinister smiley face painted across its surface. This head swells larger and larger the more damage the Shrine Dancer is dealt. These Dancers of the Sky laugh and taunt their victims while firing out flaming projectiles. Surely one of the most grotesque and terrifying enemies to be found in Ghostwire Tokyo's weird world are the Lamentations. They hang from elevated places such as trees, shrine gates and streetlights, and wait for their prey to walk beneath them before attacking from above. The Lamentation has a feminine appearance, wearing a tatty red dress, though they have no legs. Instead, their arms are abnormally long, with clawed fingers used to strike down their prey. They have no eyes, with the majority of their face taken up by an enormous toothy mouth. Their hair has a life of its own, floating as if it were in water and able to shoot out electrobolts on command. The Lamentation is incredibly agile and can employ a devastating charge attack to swiftly close ground and go in for the kill. These wretched creatures were born from the isolation of those cut off from friends and family. Dolls are a subsection of enemies within Ghostwire Tokyo that, much like the walkers discussed earlier, have several variants contained within. All are feminine in design and use a variety of ranged projectile-based attacks, firing out balls of elemental damage that slowly close in on the player and explode in their face. While slow moving, these projectiles soon build up and can overwhelm in no time if crowd control is not taken into account. In some cases, these dolls are able to heal other enemies, meaning that in most battle scenarios, taking them down first is of paramount importance. Let's take a quick look at each in turn as we read through their in-game synopses. First up, the Paper Doll, a type of visitor born from a life spent maintaining a vapid facade, empty smiles ever at the ready. They spread the same negative energy as they have been forced to bear in life. The Passenger is a visitor born from the despair of life spent on a predetermined course. Having veered from that path, they now spread destruction in their wake. And finally, we have the Marionette, which is a type of visitor born from the pessimism fostered by an empty existence. It heals visitors around it, pouring seemingly limitless energy into them with total abandon. Dressed in a yellow or red raincoat respectively, the forlorn and forsaken apparitions are born from the perils of young children. They have a childlike nature in the way they dance and play when observed from afar. Rather than attacking directly, when spotted and feeling threatened, these childlike visitors immediately cloak themselves and summon in a defense force of other visitors to protect them. This makes sense when we study their in-game descriptions. Forlorns originate from the sorrow of abused children. while forsakens from the inexhaustible rage of those children who have been wronged. Wanderers are another aerial enemy type, often found floating around in high-up places such as the top of high-rise apartments. They embrace the design of classic ghosts found in old-school cartoons and horror movies, appearing as a wailing apparition beneath a bedsheet. They were born from a desire to escape and run away, and it is said inside lies only a void. They attack while floating with ranged projectiles. If you've ever heard the legend of the slit-mouthed woman, then this next enemy will look instantly familiar. The Kuchisaki comes in two forms, one dressed in white and wearing a face mask, and the other dressed in red, her face laid bare for all to see. Upon this face is an inhumanly wide grin and demonic-looking eyes. They carry around a giant pair of scissors, which they use to slash at their victims. They can kill in seconds if their attacks are not properly blocked, and pursue the player with unrelenting aggression and rage. Due to their high tolerance for damage and powerful attacks, the Kuchisaki should be viewed as mini-boss enemy types. It is said they are born from frenzied rage, with their motive for existing purely to locate their next victim. The Shiramuku is one of the largest visitors found in this ghoulish version of Tokyo. It stands at around 12 feet tall and floats just above the ground, lashing out with a selection of ice-based attacks which can freeze their prey to the spot. Shiramuku wear outfits which resemble traditional wedding dresses worn in ancient Japanese culture and are said to be born from feelings of profound envy and resentment. While not common to encounter, these ghostly beings are highly dangerous and take a great deal of damage to fell. So do be careful when approaching these tormented brides on the battlefield. Now we move on to a selection of creatures known as yokai found in ancient Japanese mythology. These are not portrayed as enemies within Ghostwire Tokyo, but instead appear as collectible monsters via ghost hunting side quests. Let's begin with the Kappa. The appearance of these creatures resembles that of a turtle crossed with a frog. On top of their heads, the Kappa have a bowl containing water, and if they should lose this water, it weakens them greatly. They lurk near rivers and ponds, and can be lured out with cucumbers, a food often offered to and associated with water gods. It is said the Kappa drags humans into rivers where they extract their shirikadama, a mythological organ thought to be the source of one's vitality. However, some Kappa legends are more light-hearted, talking of how these aquatic creatures enjoyed to sumo wrestle. Tengu are bird-like creatures with humanoid attributes and clothing. Unlike regular birds, they have arms and hands. They fly about and can be used as anchor points for KK and Akito to grapple up to vantage points around the city. It is believed Tengu reside deep within Japanese mountains and possess exceptionally high spiritual power. Mysterious incidents occurring within these forests are therefore often associated with the Tengu. For example, when the sound of a tree is heard falling in the night, but no sign of such an event is discovered after. However, while Tengu are feared by humans, they are also respected and said to impart knowledge of martial arts upon those they take a liking to. Finally, legends speak of humans sometimes transforming into Tengu themselves. For example, Buddhist priests who grew arrogant or resentful in life. After passing, these fallen souls would find themselves in Tengudo, a realm inhabited by these creatures. The Nurikabe is a very peculiar species of yokai indeed. It looks like a living, breathing doorway, and in many ways functions just as such. Iconic in appearance with a puffy grey body and one giant cyclops eye. This yokai is invisible to the human eye and only revealed in-game when using KK's spirit powers. The Nurikabe impedes the path of certain explorers, taking on the form of an impassable wall. Legend states that to remove the Nurikabe, one must sweep a stick along the bottom of a wall. In Ghostwire Tokyo, we use the wire ability to ensnare and remove it physically. The Zashiki Warashi is a childlike yokai, which is said to bring those who keep its company good luck. They live alongside humans in their homes and are known to be both playful and to enjoy playing tricks on their owners. If treated well, the Zashiki Warashi bestows prosperity upon their family, but by the same token, they bring bad luck and ruin upon those who treat them poorly. During their side quests, we must place food inside a dish to summon these doll-like ghosts, at which point the Zashiki Warashi will reward us with Magamatama, items used to upgrade Akito's abilities. The Karakasa Kozu looks like a tatty old umbrella with a cyclops face. From its grinning mouth, a long lizard-like tongue protrudes. This yokai has 2 arms, but only 1 foot, which it uses to hop around on a small wooden shoe. They are referred to in Japan as Sakumagami, a term given to a well-worn tool that has developed a life of its own and can now move independently. To capture the Karakasa Kozu, we must sneak up on it from behind, but if the spirit should notice us, it will vanish without a trace. With a long, stretchy neck, this female yokai looks like a ghostly snake. They have long black hair and hold a lantern in their mouths, enticing those who spot them like moths to a flame.
I think she's trying to tempt us. Not my type.
Come on, we're gonna catch her.
Legends surrounding this creature speak of Rokurokubi able to detach their heads from their neck completely and float around. Usually it is believed these serpent-like yokai get up to silly mischief like giving humans a shock at night and licking up oil for their lanterns. However, some reports also tell of Rokurokubi who live deep in the mountains and attack passing travelers by night. Kodama are small football-sized creatures covered in leaves with tiny humanoid legs and hands. They are nimble and quick to clamber about, but due to their size, unable to defend themselves and vulnerable to attack. The other visitors wish to take their mystical power, and so it is our job to protect them. In return, the Kodama bestow their Magamatama, or spirit energy, upon us. In ancient Japanese mythology, these creatures were labelled as tree gods, and said to originate from trees that reached a century old, at which point the spirit of a Kodama was born from within. If these trees are then cut down, superstition states that disaster will rain down on those responsible, a wrath from the gods. The Itan Momen resembles a large white cloth with a smiling mouth full of sharp teeth. It floats about the city and we must follow its trail until it grows tired in order to capture it and add it to our ever-growing yokai collection. It is believed that the Itan Momen would appear only after sundown and then attack humans by wrapping itself around their faces and suffocating them. However, if cut by a blade, these ghostly creatures would vanish, leaving only a splash of blood. Therefore, parents often used the legend of the Itan Momen to warn their children against staying out too late. Only are monstrous humanoids often represented as cannibalistic objects of fear throughout Japanese history. Famous for tormenting the dead in Buddhist depictions of hell, countless stories exist of Oni inflicting pain and suffering upon hapless humans. However, in Ghostwire Tokyo's side stories, the Oni appear rather friendly. We use the many dogs found wandering aimlessly about the city streets to locate their whereabouts, at which point we must defeat a group of enemies before the Oni finally appears and offers up a spiritual reward. The Oni have red skin and wear golden bangles around their ankles and wrists, a small sheet with an eye symbol hiding their face. This sheet may hide the tears in their eyes, another trait associated with the Oni, alluding to how even the most ruthless and cold-hearted can feel sadness. The name Kamatashi roughly translates to sickle weasel, and as we can see, the naming is rather appropriate. These flying weasels have sharp blades in place of arms. Legend tells the Kamatashi would ride upon gusts of wind and slash at humans with their sickles. Their victims at first felt no pain, and there was no sign of blood loss, but later would suffer massive hemorrhages and perish. To capture this yokai, we must track its movement using KK's spirit's powers, as the spinning weasel moves far too quickly to keep up with. Eventually, the Kamatashi grows dizzy from all that spinning, and we are now able to catch up and claim it for our yokai collection. The Nekomata are floating cats found running the many storefronts throughout this ghost-infested version of Tokyo. They are friendly and approachable, even asking Akito and KK for help in acquiring valuable relics to sell in their shops. According to Japanese folklore, the Nekomata were cats who lived so long they inherited spiritual powers. Their tails then split into two, and they gained a number of abilities. These included the ability to understand humans and converse with them. While cute and harmless in-game, the folklore these supernatural cats originate from speaks of how they would sometimes attack humans, even devouring their souls on occasion. The final 4 monsters on this rundown show up in the form of boss encounters throughout the main story missions of Ghostwire Tokyo's campaign. Each one a monster manifesting from the body of a person exploited by the game's antagonist, Hanya. The first is Sojasuke, which uses our co-protagonist KK's body and inner torment to give birth to the monster we now see before us, a giant horned ogre-like beast who uses a variety of elemental projectiles and ground pound attacks to take down his prey. The Sojasuke can also grapple and shield against oncoming attacks, making his movement both fast and deadly, but also a target difficult to land hits upon. Born from the inner pain of a young woman called Erika, who lived a timid life of isolation with the stray cats she took in from the streets, the Biotara manifests these properties in its design. A giant three-tailed cat with a face that mimics the mask Erika wore while under her father Hanya's control.
Just wanted to fight. Dad, Mom, Bingo, people, always protecting me. I'm always standing behind somebody else. For a long time, that never bothered me so much. But it's different now.
You're in position! Now!
Those tails are a weak point.
This giant feline prowls around the prison within Erika's mind, and to defeat it, we must use brains rather than brawn, sneaking up behind the Biotara and tearing off each of its 3 tails. Each tail contains a core, the hearts of these visitors which must be destroyed in order to vanquish them. Therefore, this boss fight very much functions as a game of cat and mouse. Anyone with arachnophobia will surely be a little unsettled by this next enemy. Tsushigumo was born from the psychic energy that manifested itself within Hanya's wife during the final days of her terminal illness. Hanya harnesses the corruption within the body of his late wife to give birth to this giant visitor, and to defeat it, we must remove 2 cores, one from its mouth and the other from its underbelly. This is no easy task, as the Tsuchigumo uses her long arms to swipe at us and send out shockwaves throughout the entire boss arena. We must use fallen debris to climb to safety while dealing out as much damage as possible before the next wave of attacks begin, eventually emerging victorious. Ghostwire Tokyo's final boss is Hanya himself, or at least a corrupted version of him. Found in the depths of the underworld, this version of Hanya merges the spiritual remains of his late wife and daughter Erika to create a twisted mass of pure rage and hatred. This enormous monster is known as Hangon. We fight this monstrosity of the forbidden arts in a water-based arena and must concentrate attacks on its 3 masked faces, each hiding one of those all-important cores to destroy.
Now rip it out! Right! We gain nothing from parties! None! Can comprehend death! We cannot unite! Merging has totally destroyed.
Hangon dives beneath the surface of the water and summons hordes of visitors to its side. But if we hold out long enough and dodge its barrage of powerful water-based attacks, then victory will eventually be ours, and the spirits of Tokyo are finally laid to rest and returned to the underworld. And with that, we conclude our rundown of each and every monster found within the story of Ghostwire Tokyo. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it both entertaining and informative. If you did, remember to leave a like, comment down below, and of course subscribe for more horror-related content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.